starry night, paint your palette blue and gray.
This was November, out in the paddock. It was in the middle of the herd, new moon time, so it was very dark. This was a really clear night, and it was actually a mirror, and I could see blue veins pulsing through the mirror, and then I realised it was actually my whole perspective. That's how big this craft was. The horses were looking up and twitching their ears and sniffing natural horsemanship that the horses aren't running, so they're not threatened. So I felt very safe. From that, there was like a 6-month period of hard times for my family with me. Said that I was possessed. They were really concerned for my welfare. My husband about what happened in the paddocks, but we kind of just put that down to, oh, it's another craft we're seeing, because we see them all the time, but that was the biggest experience. Possession or whatever got really, really bad. Like I couldn't even talk to Richard or the kids. I found it really difficult to communicate with anyone. I kind of went within. I wasn't depressed or anything. I didn't have words to say to people. Anyway, so he said, look, why don't you go and have a kinesiology session? So we went and saw the kinesiologist we've seen a few times. Anyway, I'm having a session with the lady, and she went through absolutely everything. Hydration, kids. She said, you're just a clean slate. Done all the work. She said, I'm just going to try one last thing. I haven't done this with anyone before. I'll just try one last. She asked if it was an outer worlder experience, and instantly November, that date came up. She started to shake. She was holding my arm. I could feel her whole body, electric shock going. I'm going to have to go and talk to. Freaked out and left the room. You've had an ET experience. It might have taken you. You've been gone for 10 years human time, but you were here. You were only gone for like a couple of minutes. I actually felt relieved because I thought, oh, I'm not possessed. I got in the car and Richard looked at me and I went, you're never going to believe it. That day, November, that's what happened, and told the kids. The ET sounds more realistic.
But still your love was true. Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue and grey.
The following year, I had this burning desire to meet up with our astrologer in Sydney, and I couldn't get hold of her at all. I found an astrologer in the UK. She was also a psychic. Didn't really know much about psychics. You're around a lot of spiritual grounds and ET contact. There's not one, it's multiple.
Now I understand.
Me to join her psychic classes, go on to my first Zoom, and as soon as I started doing it, it was like second nature. It was like I had been doing it all my life. So I can be looking at someone if they've got beings around them or ancient ones leak out of the body somehow, and I can communicate with them while I'm talking to them. So I could be talking to you and then a being will come out and talk with me. Because it was the UK, it was 5 a.m. and Gigi came in, second eldest daughter, who's 17. I was looking at a being and so many beings in the tree, and instantly she started saying, yes, they're these people, they're Johnneman. And she just walked out like her hair was all a mess. She scratched her head and I was like, that was strange. Anyway, I walked out into the kitchen and she's out there drawing them. And ever since then, it has been snowball of just the kids. They're just drawing all the beings. Off more with orbs and ghosts, a lot of ghosts, and a lot of clearing ancient ones on the land and the land around us. Lost souls come through. A lot of the stuff I would not know what I was talking about, so I have to go and research it before I'd explain it to the kids. Jeannie, our youngest, who's now 8 or 9, she'll be walking through shopping centres and she can see black men in suits. They take their faces off and put them back on, and she'll draw them. The kids, I feel very comfortable. I'm not scared with them around these beings. My father father was born in Egypt. He told me always that other beings had created the pyramids. So I had an understanding of ETs and things, but it never really was in my life. I have had a lot of ghost experiences, especially with mirrors. Actual ghost things happen.
All I can taste is this moment.
For years, my husband and I, we practice feng shui. We're very healthy. And with the children coming into my body, I did a lot of kinesiology, cranial osteopath, acupuncture on the, and we didn't immunize. I wanted the kids to come in as clean skin. The kids never have really been to a doctor ever. The other thing they don't have is toys. They just don't have toys. They have real things. They don't watch commercial TV, so they have no concept on programs. And everyone used to think we were weird, but they all commented on how pleasant our kids were to be around. Financial crisis hit, we came up here. And then some really weird stuff started to happen. People started calling us ETs, about what's so different about you people. And just when we're out in the street, people would come up to us and just grab our hand. And we kept having electrical shortages. And I just said, it's like someone's trying to tell us something. Daughter and a son radiation poisoning from the power meter in a little farmhouse. It was Valentine's Day. The electrical meter box blew up and the house caught on fire. We ended up working out that our children were becoming ill because of this meter box. So that's how we learned our EMF. That was before any towers were up. That night I researched about electrical energy and EMF. I came across how angels, ETs, connect through electricity and water. Huge whale dreams where I would wake up on the beach with eye contact with a whale, like our eyes this far apart, and I just knew that there was something huge about to happen. I was in the mirror doing my hair, thinking, why do I have black hair? Because I'm blonde. I had a flashback to my childhood, and I remember the only fact that my father kept from Egypt was of a bust of Nefertiti. I remember saying to my mum, who is this lady? I know her. It started to hit me. A connection was with Nef. I feel like she's been communicating with me since I was very young, and now we communicate all the time, and I feel like
I just want you to know who I am. And I'd give her forever to touch.
started to realise that our family was a repeat of that realm. All I knew about really about Egypt was Nefertiti and Cleopatra, and I just remember it being in the movies, that's all. So I started researching their family tree, history, and then I started getting flashbacks, smells, food, jewellery. I did my own regress. Each time I would regress, our relationship developed. My family didn't really understand what I was going through. So I kept it all inside. But Richard, my husband's like, well, how can you prove this? And I regressed. I used to have mold in my lungs, tomb, which had mold over the walls. Her and I just wiped the mold off the walls. I came through regress, and the mold had gone from, didn't feel it in there anymore. And then 24 hours in the news, it came out that there was mold inside Toot's tomb. I said to Richard, is this enough? And he's like, maybe I need some more. Do something in the regress, then something would come out in the news, and it just kept going and going. It became so much so to the family that they actually had to start going, okay, what's she going on about?
So it sounds like you've got a parallel reality, only a different timeline.
Synchronicity, it's not just one thing, and for each one to be similar characteristics, and but also the order of the children and the timing of the birth. Maybe one child, maybe two child, but 8 couldn't have planned this. But whether I am her or not her, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter. The whole thing is it's actually happening, this experience to us. So
that's why I wanted to know from you your sense of what is part of the mandate.
Language and time and space seem to be collapsed. We're telling you we're still present together, parallel, and now we've recognized each other. So she's regressing with me, or not?
Yeah, that's interesting. What is part of the mandate for all of you incarnating together for the planet at this time?
If we can share it and then it helps other people through, now that's going somewhere.
Yes.
I felt that I had to start speaking up. My gums were receding, my teeth were all going black. You can't keep walking around like that. You look like a skeleton. And so I started doing research on what's the thing to do. It kept saying you have to speak up. The more I would speak to people about happenings that have happened to us or beings, my gums grew back. I heard your voice. It just felt like I knew you. I need to contact you. Last night I went outside and looked at the stars and feel like people have forgotten how to love. They've forgotten their roots and they've forgotten how their body works. I didn't really want the family involved, but we all are. One of the hardest things that I was worried that when my eldest son got to a certain age, similar to the other realm, so I was living in a lot of fear, and then I let it go. He had contact with beings, wanting to break away from the family, which was strange for us because we were such a close family. He left the house angry and didn't want to talk to us. And we live right in the hills. It's really dark where we live. He had two large beings come up to him, either come with us or you go home. He said they spoke to him in another language, but he understood. I don't think I've ever seen him as white, and all that anger had left his body. Bizarre thing to have these things happen. How do others perceive it? We've kept it a secret all these years. Started to realise that they were going to use this as a tool of manipulation, something within us all. This is not right. People have to stop being scared. Aliens are actually inside us. They're in forms of parasites. You can clean a lot out, but not all of them. Wrong purposes either. Everything's meant to happen for some reason or another. I've done a lot of talking and all I wanted to do was hear your voice.
Thank you. Also because it's giving me a real sense of the journey that you've had and where you're at.
I lose my way.
Animals communicate with us. You don't need Netflix here because it's just happening all the time. So entertaining. I mean, when I'm doing grounding work, they've got a white bull and a black bull. I call them yin and yang. I'll finish a clearing and they come up and the bulls will call it in.
You know that I'm proud and I can't get the words out. Oh,
Jeannie, our youngest, is literally, we believe, like a genie.
She was an entity. Genies are human. Witches are human. Genies are not.
Was riding on her Shetland pony. Kingfisher flew into her hand. They're this tiny, the most beautiful blue. They're so fast. I can barely work out what they are when they pass. She opened her hand and she went, "Hello, little one," and then it flew off. Started having bigger encounters. Huge whales where we've been out in the ocean. Two big ones going past. I just want to see if they'll come any closer. As soon as Richard turned the motor off, I ching-chinged 2 adult whales, did a right angle and torpedoed us. They stayed on the top surface of the water. Quite concerned, which is rare for Richard. Everyone get your life jackets on. I was really scared. Gigi and Ginger were at the front of the boat. The whales were this like far from our fingers.
I wanna be with you.
Oh wow! That's his belly, Gigi. Oh my gosh!
Can you hear me call?
Oh my god, that was so close! Did you not?
They went right under us. But I've never seen a whale do a right angle. They've told me so many messages about the land, songline. Alignments, and I realized that that was the first encounters. They find crystals. I mean, they come up with these amazing crystals from the creek, and these crystals make EMF organs, which are like little prisms.
I don't know what to say.
I got a message from a dragon type being that the hill near us, it needed help. We went and did a clearing. I made my son help me. We went on the quad bike and we planted the organ. I looked up, ancestors are watching us, Jack. Yeah, Mum, get on the quad. As we just drove in the gate of the house, Jet started swearing. I turned around and I had to lean back. Huge shadow had come over the house. It was a US military plane. I could see the black stallion on the side, but I could hear the little girls in the citrus trees. They made eye contact with the pilot and then they fell out the tree. That's how close it was. On the other side of the house, made eye contact with passengers. Gigi said, they're not all human on that craft. And she drew them. The synchronicity for me after planting the organ, I started to question why didn't the neighbours on top of the hill see so close to their house? Why didn't anyone else hear it? Why wasn't there any dust? How come we didn't blow over? We've been at many fashion shoots at an airport and I can never hear someone standing even next to me. And that's with the planes going over much higher. Everything gets blown, but nothing happened like that. That's just one of them. We've had so many things like this. Our neighbours standing here with us watching craft. I don't know if it's a craft. That aircraft don't move like that, circles or up and down or flash at you like that.
And you better make some before you break my heart.
A few explained it to us. There's many people around the globe where their light shoots out. You're having so many encounters because there's 10 of you because it's really bright for them.
Everywhere, no.
Many times checked, every family member have incarnated, and they've only incarnated one other time, which was back then.
But there's some other kind of soul group that you're part of together.
Richard's oversoul. He's part of some council, has called us in. Oversouls are coming in again to Earth. Yes, an invitation to ground.
You've all come to bring in that extra essence or awareness at this time on the planet now. Is that how you understand it?
It's like they were waiting for us to get ready. It's that time again. Because it's too weird that it's happening at 2012, and the whole thing is just too bizarre.
Yeah. The connection significant.
I've asked the oversoul's roles and how they come in, and it's very similar to the personalities of each person in the family. I mean, the way I met Richard, I was in Sydney painting my apartment. I got up and I cut this cord. It was electrical, bolted through me. I woke up on the other side of the room on the ground, and I don't know how much time had passed. And there was a huge hole in the scissors. Couldn't stop shaking. And my dog whimpering, licking my face. One of the regresses I've had, Ginger, the electric one, kill me to clean any parasites in me, to zap it out of me in time to meet Richard. And then the next day, that was my first time that I went out with Richard. I had to have a clearing before I met Richard. At the time, I didn't know any of this. It's only in a regress. Whenever I have a regress, with other beings that come through or the kids, and go back and test it, it always comes up the same answer. You got your answer, move on. It doesn't matter how much someone else, they have that. That's their thing. This is our answer. Doesn't matter what history says. And the more we live by this, the more better things happen for us.
With the ET contact, as a family, from the interactions that you've had, some kind of focus?
Any hint of doubt, they always have jesters. How can you be with Richard in this realm and still have doubt? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know your agreement there? How to open other people's hearts with all this, how to make it work for others.
Where do we go?
We had to clean our temples to accept it. We learned how to heal and preparing to communicate with them. I got pushed into this from the beings. 3 marks on my back, 5 centimeters, like a triangle. I couldn't work out what was from. Asked by the being, open gateways for them to come in. Wake up at 2 a.m. 3 days in a row on these specific days, and we'd go to a mountaintop and sunrise calling in of the beings. In the last day of that, I was in the paddock and I misread our yearling, turned around and I could see the hooves come into my back. So its back feet impacted, it chipped my spine. Probably 3 months, I was paralyzed. They're going to call an ambulance. They knew that I wouldn't get in it. Screaming, but I couldn't make the noise come out. I was freaking out. I was in such pain. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't eat. I couldn't move my head. Good 24 hours of that. And then Richard came in and said, all right, now you've experienced the pain. You're going to put into practice everything you've learned. And the pain off like that. Instantly, a being came straight through. The triangle mark, which is delta, and then the constant change. You didn't have to imprint it in me. I understand constant change. Obviously, I had to go so that I could understand the pain of others. My heart really went out to people that were in hospitals or retirement homes, or an acupuncturist. He said, I can't actually do a full treatment on you because you're really bad. You should go and have an x-ray. We'll then not want to operate, so I won't be able to walk for a longer time, and they're going to cut tendons and skin. So that's extra healing. What happens with the bone? They should dissolve. So I can do this, right? And he went, you can. Jeannie had fallen off Cookie, her pony, and she had a clean break. She was a little scared because she's never been in a hospital, and weird smells and noises. And I whispered in her ear, we might be here for another reason. The pain stopped, swelling went down, and her and I started seeing the beings in the hospital. We saw lost souls. We saw the patient across from us. We could see his pain body next to him, and she could see it as well. We were only in the hospital an hour. They didn't do any injections, nothing. We left the hospital. She went and bought paint and brushes because she wanted to come home and draw the beams that she saw in the hospital. No pain. Within days, she wanted to ride a horse. I mean, we're talking about knitting bones now. We're talking hardcore. These beings, are they making us super beings?
Follow the sun.
That it is activating what's going on to reappraise their life, to look at things in a new way.
We're walking proof that it is really possible, and these beings are helping us.